Hello, hello everybody. We are back for SizzleForce Marketing Live. It is Friday at noon Pacific, and like I have been sharing with all of you guys, every Friday at 12 o'clock Pacific time, we're going live and we are going to be sharing answers to the questions that the SizzleForce community is presenting to us. So today we're going to be answering questions from two of our community members. We have Amy and we have Jennifer. And I'll get into addressing their specific questions in just a moment. I want to allow a little bit of time here for us to notify you guys that we are live and get you all to jump on. While we're waiting for that to happen, I do want to remind everybody that the questions that we answer are just questions that are being posed to me through various sources. So if you are addressing, or if you have questions, I should say, you can go ahead and you can submit them to me via email. If you have my email address, you can go ahead and pop them up on the SizzleForce marketing page. You can private message me. You can put them in the SizzleForce Marketing Connections free Facebook group, which if you are not a part of, I certainly hope you will go into Facebook right after this live is finished. Enter SizzleForce Marketing Connections in your search bar. You'll find our group, and I hope you will request to join up because we would love to have you there. We discuss all things marketing and lots of other things just related to small business, and you would be a welcome addition to our community. So I hope you'll jump on and join us there. So you can ask me questions in a number of ways. Pick whatever works best for you, and I'm just sorting through these questions every week and finding the ones that I think need to be answered most urgently, and eventually I'm going to get to all of them. But there you go. This is your opportunity to get free consulting. Hello. Who wants free consulting? You do, of course, right? I know you want free consulting because it's free and it's amazing because, you know, I'll just be honest with you guys. If you wanted to do a private consulting call with me, it's not cheap. So why would you pay for it when you can get it for free? Okay. All right. So now that we're clear on all of that, I think we'll go ahead and we'll just get started with the questions. Now, as always, I think you guys know by now, I have no memory at all. So I have to write everything down. And so right now, I'm going to take a quick peek over at my notes. You're going to see my eyes dart to the other side. And I'm going to read the first questions that we received from Amy. Now, before I actually start with the questions that she has, I'll just tell you real quickly about her because I love to highlight my community members and give them a little bit of publicity when I'm doing these lives. So Amy is actually Amy Gray. She owns two companies. I believe it's San Diego Beach Photography. She also owns Marion's Childcare, which you can find at hotelchildcare.com. Now, here's what's great about Amy. Okay, in addition to being just a stellar photographer, she takes the most beautiful family portraits. She also has this business. It's called hotelchildcare.com again. However, if you're visiting San Diego, she'll hook you up with reliable childcare in your hotel room if you need a date night. If you live in San Diego and you just want to go out without the kiddos for something special, or just maybe it's not even something special, maybe it's just to get out and get stuff done, Amy can send her really, really carefully curated babysitters, nannies, etc. over to help you out. I have been using Amy's service for about a year now, and I've had her, she's sent several different people over to help me, and all I can tell you is they are first class. Every single one of them, just outstanding people that I knew within minutes I felt completely safe leaving my kids with. So there's the plug for Amy. Now let's get to her marketing question. Amy asks, how important is it to keep the well-known in a small niche name, okay, well-known in a small niche, Marion's Childcare, considering the possibility of reaching a larger audience with a more with it and modern name? Like, I don't know, what would you suggest? Great question. Amy, here are some things for you to think about. First of all, rebranding and renaming a company that's well known or not happens all the time. And I was intrigued with your questions, so I started doing a little bit of digging on some of the bigger companies out there that have rebranded. And you're going to get a kick out of this. Listen to this. I want to tell you these enormous household brand name companies and what they were originally called. Are you ready? Google was not always Google. Care to guess what it might have been? Let me tell you what it might have been. It was called back rub, like rub my back. That is what Google was called. Why? I have no idea. I just know that's what it was called. So Google was called back rub. Pepsi was originally called Brad's drink, like as in Bradley, right? Brad's drink, because the founder of Pepsi was a man named Caleb, Bradham, right? So he, in all of his creativity, decided to name the drink Brad's drink. And then somebody must have given him a little nudge and say, maybe we should get a little more creative. Maybe we should call it Pepsi. And boom, there we go. Okay, Nike. Here's another example. Nike was not always Nike. Nike was actually Blue Ribbon Sports. Not nearly as catchy or zingy, right? Hertz Rent-A-Car, they were called Drive Yourself. I'm processing this, Drive Yourself. And the way they spelled it, they tried to be all cute, right? It wasn't like DRIVEYOURSELF. It was all cutesy with, it was like the what do they call those acronyms? Like when people write TTYL or LOL or whatnot. I can't think of what the word is for those. But it was before all of that. They were trying to get all cutesy. All right. Sony, of course, a Japanese company. We all know that. Now, I don't speak Japanese, so if you do and I say this completely wrong, please forgive me. I am not trying to be rude. I just don't speak Japanese. But Sony was originally called Tokyo Tsushin Kagyo. Tokyo Tsushin Kagyo. Yeah. Sorry. Hang on a second. My computer just went dead and I don't want to miss anything. Here we go. Okay. I got one more for you. Yahoo. And this one might be my favorite. I don't know. This is a toss-up between Google being back rub and then this one. Yahoo. Now, if you recall, before Gmail, before Google really took off, Yahoo kind of owned it, right? Yahoo was originally called Jerry's Guide to the World Wide Web. Jerry's Guide to the World Wide Web. Interesting stuff, don't you think? All right, so here's what we know. Huge companies often rebrand their name. Small companies rebrand their name. I rebranded. Originally, my company name was Impressions Marketing Studio. And I'll tell you, I broke all of my own rules when I created my company name because I really was doing more of what I thought I should do rather than really being authentic to what my brand was, who I am, what I bring to the table, what my team brings to the table, etc. Right? And I'll tell you, I named it, I did all the legal paperwork, all that stuff. And then I was like shooting myself in the foot because I hated the name. I hated it. But I had already done all the branding. I had already gotten everything, all the legal stuff done, all the graphic design, the business cards, the website, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want to hassle with redoing all of it. Okay, so I carried that name around for quite some time and always just was like, that's the name of my company. It's got no zing. It's not us. So I finally decided, you know what? I've had it. This just isn't me, and I need to just bite the bullet and rebrand because I need a brand that represents the authentic story of who we are. And so we didn't pull it out of the hat. We actually spent a ton of time out of this, but we decided we would be SizzleForce Marketing. And I love our name. Can I just say that? I love our name. I remember my husband thought it was like super goofy, but I will tell you, I get so many comments on the name. And it's a lot of fun to say, right? And it's me. So it feels very authentic and very great. So can you rebrand? Of course you can. Should you rebrand when you've got a strong following in a small niche? That's really only a decision you can make. I can't really answer that for you, but I can tell you that these major brands do it all the time. And me as a small business owner, I did it. And there are countless companies that are changing their branding all the time. Now, there are costs associated with a brand name change that you just need to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, you need to know that you're going to have to redo your logo probably. You're going to have to redo your business cards, any print collateral you have, your website, your social media art. That just takes care of the marketing stuff like off the top. Then you're also going to have to, do a really good job of explaining this change to your existing clientele, which you'll probably do for the most part through a really sweet email nurturing campaign, as well as the hotel partners that you have. And it's a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work for you. However, if you feel like your company needs to, up level a little bit and maybe modernize a little bit, then maybe it's a good decision for you to do that. Again, I can't really answer you yes or no, but that's what I can say. Now, let's talk for just a few minutes about why companies often do change their name. Okay, and I think there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I wrote down that came to my mind when I was preparing for this. Number one, companies change their name because they have a bad reputation. I know that is completely not true for your company. You have a stellar reputation, right? But companies do change for bad reputations all the time. I mean, how many of you guys remember Amway that turned into Quiksilver, if I recall, that turned back into Amway? Anybody remember all of this? So, they had a bad reputation, and granted, I don't work for that company. I don't know what their reason, that they would give for rebranding is, but if I had to guess, the reputation might have had something to do with it. Okay, people change names when they do mergers, right? Of course, you have to change your name. When you outgrow a niche, a lot of times people will start companies that are locally based, like they might call themselves San Diego pencil sharpeners. Okay, terrible name, but let's pretend they call themselves that, and then they decide to start sharpening pencils in Orange County or Portland, Oregon, or New York City, or whatever it is, right? So they outgrow their name and they have to rename. All right. People also rebrand when they're entering into a new market. And finally, people rebrand when there are political and cultural shifts. And let me give you an example of this. This is a fairly interesting one. At one point, there was a mobile payments company. It was backed by some of the big cell phone carriers. And the name of it originally was ISIS, okay? Maybe at the time that was okay, but in the world we live in now, you cannot call your company ISIS. That is a horrible name with horrible connotations to it, right? So if there are political and cultural shifts, some completely out of your control, then you need to be able to be flexible and change your name accordingly. Okay, the next thing I wanted to chat with you about is how to pick a name. Now, picking a name is sometimes a complicated process because there's a lot of variables that you need to consider, right? You have to consider what your brand voice is, what your reputation is. What do you want to project? What is your brand promise that you want to project in the marketplace? How do you want to be known as? Do you want to be known as the super straight and narrow kind of bank thing or lawyer thing? Or do you want to have more fun, be a little more playful, do something like SizzleForce, for example, or Google or Zappos, right? Do you want to make up your own word, or do you want to use words that people already know? There are pros and cons to all of this, okay? The pro with making up your own word for your name is that it's going to be completely unique to you. The con is that it may be difficult for people to spell. It can be an issue then when you go to buy your domain name, or even if you're telling somebody the name of your company on the phone or even at an event. If you before Google was Google and everyone knew what Google was, if you said Google, people would have been like, what? Right? But they put a lot of money behind getting that name into all of our heads. Same thing with all those other companies that have these wacky, weird, made-up names. So I kind of decided when I was rebranding that I was going to use existing words that people already knew how to spell, but I was going to merge them into one word, right? So I broke all the rules of, that I learned in 4th grade grammar, right? Or 4th grade English class, whatever it was. And I became SizzleForce. And that's actually 2 words, but I made it into one. And I made it, the way that I brand it is capital SIZZLE, capital F like Frank, ORCE. Now, the way I explain it to people, because it's not a word that a lot of people know, the way I explain it to them is I say, oh, the company name is SizzleForce. Sizzle like bacon, and force like may the force be with you. And every time I say that, people start laughing, which is a great way to start a business conversation. If you can make people laugh, woohoo, right? You want to get, for me, it's very important, and I think for a lot of companies, and for you, it's very important to establish that rapport, right? And given the fact that my brand is playful, we're also, very smart and strategic, but we're playful and we're not afraid, of being casual because that's who we are. And so for me, starting out a conversation with a name that makes people smile is a great starter. So you'll just have to think a little bit more about that. I will tell you, not on a professional note, but on a personal note, I asked my husband, who Amy, about your name change. And I said, what do you think? Should Amy change the name? And he said, no. And I said, why not? He goes, because it's so warm and nurturing and it just sounds like a grandma and I love it. Now, my husband is a creature of habit. I, on the other hand, am the risk taker. I'm the giddy up, he's the whoa. So you're going to get different opinions from everybody. I think what you need to do is figure out what's right for you, what's going to make you feel good about the direction that your company is taking from here forward. I hope I answered that question. All right. Our next set of questions, I'm not sure why I cannot see comments from you guys, but if you guys are commenting and I can't see them, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on with that. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to carry on here. And if you are leaving comments, I will go back after this live is posted and I will respond to them, I promise. Okay. So now we are going to move on to our second set of questions, which come from Jennifer Bridges. Jennifer owns a company called PDUs to Go. She does these outstanding continuing education courses, has an unbelievably robust library, and a very established company that is very, very successful. So hi, Jen. Thanks for submitting your questions. So here are some questions she had about rebranding. Number one, is it okay to change my company colors? Yes, Jen, it is okay. It absolutely is okay for you to do that. I think if you need to freshen up your brand, then by all means change the colors, right? Big companies, little companies do this all the time. What I would encourage you to do when you do decide, if you do decide to change your colors, is to make sure you really consider color psychology when you pick your colors. So don't just pick colors because you think they're pretty, right? Don't just pick colors because you think your target market will like them. I'm a big believer in using color psychology when creating a color palette for a company. And if you just Google color psychology, you'll find all kinds of resources that tell you what these colors, what emotions they tend to evoke in the people that see them. For example, red. Red can be very alarming, it can be very eye-catching, it can be romantic, it can be sexy, it can get your heart rate beating faster. Blue is typically a color used by a lot of banks, a lot of lawyers, a lot of insurance firms, etc., because blue is associated with loyalty, conservative stuff, safety, protection. Right? And these are all things that you can read about if you just Google color psychology. So go ahead and do that if you decide that you want to jump into this world of freshening up your brand with some new colors. You also asked me if it was okay to change the tagline. Yes, indeedy. Okay. I honestly did not catch what your tagline is right now. I apologize. I forgot to look for that. However, if you feel like your tagline is no longer representing your brand well, then yes, not only can you change it, you should change it. You know, if you look at the history of some of the major brand soda companies like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, or even you look at some of the other food and beverage category companies like McDonald's or whatever it is, they're changing their taglines all the time, right? They're freshening them up, right? If you again, this is another Google activity, right? You can go on Google and you can look at slogans or taglines, whatever you want to call them, that have been used by Pepsi, Coke, McDonald's, etc. over the years. They change them all the time. Oftentimes, if the tagline that you're currently using is not what's the word I'm looking for? Sustainable. If it's not evergreen, that's what I was trying to say. If you did not originally select an evergreen tagline, then yeah, you might need to freshen it up. And it's not a bad thing. It shows that you still care about your brand, that you're on the cutting edge, that you're willing to take risks and change things, and you know, that you still care, really. All right. Next question, do you even need a tagline? I love this question. I love that you asked me this question, especially since you know that I develop taglines for a living. So I'll try not to be biased, but yeah, yes, I don't know if I can be on that. Do you need a tagline? If you're running a hobby out of your house where you're making an extra couple $100 a month, no. You don't need a tagline. If you're running a company like you're running, Jen, then yes, you need a tagline. You need to be, it's a differentiator for you. It is something that will quickly and clearly make people aware of what your brand promises, what value you bring to the marketplace. It will separate you from your competition. I mean, a tagline is such a powerful thing. So yeah, you need a tagline. And if you need help with that, you know that's what I do. So I'm your girl. Call me, let me know. Next thing you ask me, what are the most important things to know about rebranding? I think the most important things you need to know are that there is risk involved with rebranding. There have been rebranding fails. There are certain companies that, a new CEO came in and said, we're going to change everything, and it completely bombed. It can happen. So when you rebrand, you have to handle it very delicately with your community. The bigger the company you have, the more delicately you have to handle it. And I have found that a lot of times people will get attached to certain looks and feels. And so you're going to have to communicate why you changed it and make it a benefit to your prospects and your customers. So that's a really important thing for you to know about rebranding. I'm trying to think of other things you need to know about rebranding. Rebranding can be really, really fun, and it really has no limitations. So I absolutely encourage you to bring somebody from the outside in to help you with your rebranding efforts. I happen to know somebody that could help you with this, that would love to help you with this, but I will tell you, you need eyes from somebody that's outside of your company. If you're trying to do this just by yourself or with your existing team, you guys have a skewed perspective. You have the insider perspective, which is valuable and, of course, so important. But you need a new perspective. You need somebody to ask you questions that you haven't thought of. You need to know what the marketplace is asking and be able to respond to all of that. So that's another thing that I think is really important for you to know about rebranding. Got one more question here. What are the no-nos when rebranding? That's a good question. The no-nos when rebranding are to rebrand just because you feel like it, or to rebrand in a way that it's just because it's something that you like, right? You like the look of it, and so I'm just going to put out there what I like, as opposed to thinking about what my ideal clients like and need from me in a brand. Because a lot of times a brand establishes trust. So it's a no-no to do just what you want to do. It's a yes to do what your ideal clients want you to do. So when you rebrand, you do need to do quite a bit of research. It's a bad idea to just jump into this. It's a bad idea to do it on the fly. It's a bad idea to do it alone. It is a bad idea. Let me tell you what's a really bad idea. It's a really bad idea to cheap out on your rebranding efforts. Okay? I see companies all the time rebrand, okay, using sources like, these crowdsourcing graphic design sites, 99 Designs or, whatnot. Okay, here's the problem I have with those companies. A lot of those logos are not original at all. They've been ripped off from other companies. And so you think, maybe you haven't seen the other companies, so you think it's all hot and snazzy, but it actually looks exactly like something else that's already out there that just has a different name under it. There's like so little accountability for what these people do. A lot of them are also overseas. Now, there are some people overseas that are awesome. I have I have done work not in the graphic design arena, but in some other arenas with people overseas. And I've had some great experiences and I've had some really not great experiences. But when it comes to branding, you need somebody that understands the culture that you're marketing to. And so, you know, if you're hiring somebody to work on your brand development that lives in, oh, I don't know, China, but you're marketing to people that live in New York City, there might be a big disconnect. It might create a lot of problems, right? Because they simply might not understand the culture. And you need to work with people that do, right? The no-nos with rebranding also are to jump into some of the more visual aspects before doing your competitive research and before working out the more foundational aspects of the brand. And by that, I mean understanding what your brand really stands for, understanding what your brand voice is, really defining that very clearly, really having a crystal clear idea of who you're marketing to, understanding that when you are sending out this message, you're trying to attract a certain person and engage them to take action in a certain way. So I hope that answers your questions. Amy, Jen, thank you so much for allowing me to share your very, very smart questions. I really appreciate you allowing us to just weigh in on this and to share it with all the other business owners that are going to watch this, because this is how we all learn together. So I will just remind all of you, if you're not in my free Facebook group, I hope you will join. It is free. Did I say free? Free, free, free. It is free, and it is a great place for you to connect with like-minded business people and get answers to all of your marketing questions. Well, not all of them, because I am in business and I do have a fee. But this is a great way for you to start getting answers to some of your questions. So there you go. It's Friday. I think you guys should turn off your computer, your phone, whatever, get outside, have some fun, make it a great weekend, and be sure to come back next Friday. Mark your calendar if you haven't already. Be sure to come back next Friday at noon, because we'll be back with another SizzleForce Live. Have a great weekend.